is. And I'll tell you up front, spoiler alert, this is one of the best bikes in the midsize ADV market, hands down.
Suzuki V-Strom 800 Dale Earnhardt edition. Need to put a big old black 3 on the side. Race hell, praise Dale. It looks great. The yellow, it attracts the lady bugs, and you have an incredible package that could literally do just about everything. A jack of all trades as far as a motorcycle. Did Suzuki create the best V-Strom ever with this bike right here? Hey guys, I'm Alan, you're watching the Fireman Rides. So today I have this beautiful 2025 Suzuki V-Strom 800DE. The DE stands for Dual Explorer, which means this is their more off-road style model of the V-Strom. And I got to thank the guys over at Team Charlotte Motorsports who gave me the keys to this bike. Said, Alan, go take it, go review it. We just feel like the V-Strom kind of gets lost in the ADV market, and it truly is. And I'll tell you up front, spoiler alert, this is one of the best bikes in the midsize ADV market, hands down. So again, Team Charlotte Motorsports, go see them, Freedom Drive, Charlotte, North Carolina. Go see them for anything, 2 wheels, 4 wheels, no wheels. So again, what we have is a 2025 Suzuki V-Strom 800DE. Now I almost said 650 because for years and years and years, the V-Strom was synonymous with being a 650. That's a 650 or 649cc V-twin. Well, guess what? They still make that bike. They still make the 1050, which is the leader V-twin, but this right here, this is the Goldilocks. This slots right in the middle. This is an 800cc, or excuse me, 776cc. They're calling it an 800. 270-degree crank parallel twin bike that is, I tell you what, it's one of the best mid-size modern ADV bikes on the market today, and we get to ride it. So what we're going to do today is we're doing a nice comprehensive review. We're going to go over all the normal stuff, and we're just going to ride it, and we're going to talk about this, and we're going to talk about where this bike really kind of fits in to that mid-size ADV market. So if you see anything that you like, comment, subscribe. Let's go ride. All right, so let's take a look at the ergonomics of this Suzuki V-Strom 800 Dale Earnhardt edition. Need to put a big old black 3 on the side. Race hell, praise Dale. So, hopping on the bike here. This is the most comfortable motorcycle that you're going to find this side of a BMW R1200 RT GS, something along those lines. The sitting position, it's almost perfect. You kind of sit on top of it, but you kind of sit into it at the same time, if it makes any sense at all. You know, it just really kind of, it's a really good protective seat, or supportive seat. The handlebars are in a damn near perfect position. The position of my ankle to my knee to my hip is a great. It could be a little string. A touring bike would probably be a little bit longer, something like this. But for an adventure bike, this is a great seating position right here. Again, it's about all day comfortable. One of the few complaints I have about the cockpit is how far away, look at that, how far away that windscreen is from me, the rider. And what that does is that the windshield's doing its job, but then that wind comes over and it starts to swirl and move around about here, and then it hits me over here, and it kind of creates that turbulence, especially if you're wearing a peaked helmet. So it's a really long distance. I'm sure Suzuki had a reason for that, but I don't know what it is. The little wind deflectors, they do actually do a pretty good job. Again, I got caught in a rainstorm the other day, and I didn't get that wet, except for my shoulders, which is the air. It all hits me right here. But it's, again, like I said, as far as both feet up right here, again, it is kind of, the saddle is kind of scooped out right here, so you are kind of stuck in one position, and you do kind of lean. It kind of rolls your hips forward, so you're kind of getting your nether region kind of rolled up a little bit. Again, if they had a flat seat, almost like a flat bench seat, that'd be a lot lot better. That way I could kind of move around, slide back and forth, move around a little bit. And that would kind of raise me up a little bit too. So very few complaints. As far as standing goes, the standing is great on the bike here. You see the position, the exhaust doesn't get in the way. I know my favorite bike, the Moto Guzzi, the V85 TT, when I stand up, my foot's sitting right on the exhaust, and that sucks. But besides that, like I said, good position. You could probably stand for some bar risers if you're going to do some off-road riding. But as far as ergos go, it's top notch. It really is. All right, so let's talk about the on-road, the highway riding characteristics of this 2025 V-Strom 800DE. So the bike is very, very stable at highway speeds. I want you to park it there too. The bike is very stable at highway speeds. The only thing that really lets it down, and you could probably hear it, is this windscreen. Now, the windscreen itself, I don't think it's that bad. It is rather small. It's on the small side. But the problem, what I see, is the distance from me to the windscreen. Is that if you notice, I can't even reach out and touch the windscreen from where I'm at. I got to lean forward. It's probably a good foot, past where my arm is, which means the wind is kind of is being diverted by the windscreen, but then by the time it gets back to me, it's already kind of reformed and getting nice and turbulent. So I think we're going to struggle in the aftermarket with, getting a big enough windscreen to keep that wind past me as the rider on an interstate scenario. So I'm going 60 miles an hour. Now the wind is clean. Now I am wearing a Ride XD4 with a peak on it, which is my favorite off-road helmet. And I feel a little bit of air catching on the peak, but it's nothing terrible. But I think a bigger windscreen, I can hear the wind come. If wind comes, it hits me like literally right here is where I can feel the wind at 60 miles an hour. So I think a bigger windscreen or a laminar lip or something that can take that air and divert it up high enough and get it over my helmet would make this cockpit a lot quieter for highway riding. Now, on my shoulders, I can feel the air hitting me right on the shoulders, which again, the windscreen just kind of is real small. So a taller and wider windscreen, I think, would really help to create a really good touring setup if you plan on doing a lot of interstate. So again, as far as highway riding, the bike's got tons of power. The bike has power for absolute days for what we're doing. Two-up riding, wife rode it. She absolutely loved it. It was very stable on the interstate. No issues whatsoever as far as that goes. And the lack of cruise control, I will harp on that a couple times because with ride-by-wire, why would you not give the bike cruise control? That's one of my very few, and I truly mean very few, nitpicks on this bike is the lack of cruise control. But as far as on highway riding, the characteristics, the bike is very stable. The wind protection is subpar. The lack of cruise control is a bit disappointing. But as far as power goes, it's great. As far as stability goes, it's great. I was riding the other day and I got stuck in a rain shower, and I was getting wet on my shoulders because that's where it's hitting me. But as far as like my legs, the tank right here, it was no problem. I had no, my pants were not wet or anything. So I was getting a really good, a bubble from the tank and from this tiny little fairing here on the front. So as far as highway riding, I'll give it a, let's do a scale of 10 today. Let's do a scale of 10 today. So on a scale of 10, I'm going to give the highway riding a 6.5. So let's talk about the competitors for this bike here. Now, this class, this mid-size ADV class, it's absolutely chocked full of competition. And I mean some really good competition. And they come from all over the place. I mean, you've got competition from Japan, you've got it from England, you've got it from, other countries in Europe. But then now you also have competition from China, which is a sort of a new, kind of in the last couple of years, kind of a new category of bikes is the CF Moto bikes and the Cove bikes as well.
But as far as, like I said, let's go through the competition. And again, the bikes that I'm very familiar with, and I love this category. Obviously, you've got the Tenere 700. The Tenere 700 is really good bike. It's not nearly as comfortable as what this bike is. I think this bike right here, between this bike here and the V85 TT, I'm going to say those are the absolute most comfortable bikes in this category right here. And again, the V85 TT, I'm very familiar with, and I'm still trying to get the numbers right to buy one from my buddy T over at T's Eurocycle. So as far as comfort goes, those two are the top bikes there. As far as off-road prowess, why are you going so slow? You're going 10 under the speed limit. As far as off-road prowess, I say honestly it's between this bike here and the Tenere and the Aprilia Touareg 660, another bike which I have a ton of familiarity with. I've done a couple comprehensive reviews of those bikes as well, and like I said, I would definitely say those three bikes are the kind of the top ones as far as off-road performance. As far as power goes, they're all roughly about the same. I think maybe the Aprilia makes a little bit more horsepower than just about anybody else with their 660 parallel twin, 270-degree crank parallel twin. I think they're making us a little bit more power than everybody else, but it's all pretty close in that category right there. As far as on-road, like if you just say, I want a mid-size ADV bike, but I want it just to tour, I'm going to lean you towards the V85 TT. I really am. I think that is the absolute best touring bike in that category. It's the most comfortable bike, but it's also the best touring bike. It comes with a factory cruise control, and it's got all the tech features and everything else. So this is an incredibly competitive class. So let's go through it again. Touareg 700. You got the Touareg, the Tenere 700. You got the Touareg 660. You got the Moto Guzzi V85 TT. You got the Honda Transalp, which again, I had a Honda Transalp. This is a better bike than the Honda Transalp, hands down. At least the 2024 model that I had. You've got the CF Moto Ibex 800, which is basically a KTM 790 motor that is being produced by CF Moto. That's not where I turn. I turn right there. I always forget. Do I turn right there? I think I do turn right there. I think I'm supposed to turn right there. I always forget. I always miss that turn. So again, there's a ton of bikes in this category, and I truly believe that this bike is one of the best bikes in that mid-size ADV category. Is it my favorite bike? Probably not. I still think that's the V85 TT. Is it my second favorite bike in that category? I kind of think it is. I'd even take this over the Aprilia Touareg 660. So take that for what it's worth. And the Touareg definitely, they're all real competitive. I mean, they're competitive price-wise. They're competitive horsepower-wise. I would put this over the Aprilia simply for reliability as well as dealer network. I still absolutely love the Moto Guzzi. If I was taking one around the world, which bike would I choose? It would probably be this right here. Get this thing fitted with some cruise control, and I would take this bike around the world. And again, and it's just as much for the dealer network as it is anything else. Nothing against the V85, nothing against the Touareg, but I would take this one right here. So with a 5.3 gallon tank, and what I've found is I'm averaging about 45, maybe 50 miles per gallon. So with that size tank right there, you're looking at theoretically 250 miles, but honestly, you're more like 180 to 200 miles of range before you're hitting the reserve. So, kind of planning your stops around that 200 mile range, which again, and as I've said it before, I think that's kind of the bare minimum for what you should be able to expect from an ADV bike is a 200 mile range. And like I said, this one right here, you hit that 200 miles, plus you got a little bit of reserve, and really depends on your riding style. This bike here, it really is dependent on how you're riding it. If you're hot dogging this thing, you might get as low as 40 miles per gallon. If you're doing like I'm doing right here, like I said, right now it's saying, let's look at instant mileage. Instant mileage is saying 51 miles per gallon. So in that case, you're looking upwards of 250 miles of range. So again, but 200 miles is a good typical range that you should expect out of this bike here. Let's talk about the maintenance. The maintenance of this bike. Now, again, this is coming from a previous owner of a Honda Transalp 750. If if I was buying a motorcycle between those two bikes and I was basing it simply on how easy it is to maintain, it would be this bike 10 out of 10 times. And the main reason is the location of the air filter on my Honda Transalp. The air filter is underneath the gas tank. It is a pain in the ass to get to the air filter. And again, if you're riding, today we're riding back roads and dirt roads, you're going to ingest a lot of dust, especially if you're riding with somebody else and you're not riding in the front. You're going to ingest a lot of dust. Guess what? You're going to have to change that air filter. It took me 4 hours to change the damn air filter the first time I did it on the Honda Transalp. This bike here, it'll take you less than 5 minutes. So oil changes, they're super easy. You got a spin-on oil filter. The access is really good. The Suzuki, they really thought this engine, this platform out as far as the ability to do the maintenance yourself. The Transalp, Honda, I don't know what the hell Honda was thinking. Honda's usually really good about stuff like that. They dropped the ball on that Transalp, and I don't think they revised it for 25. They just really wanted to get it out on the market, and they revised it for 25. I don't know if they changed it or not. So let's pull over here real quick, neutral, and let's look at the electronics of the bike. I don't know if you can see this really good. So let's see if we can shut the bike off. There we go. So here, let's stop for a second. Let's look at this screen. Now, okay, so we have 3 different things that we're looking at here. We have our traction control, our Suzuki dynamic mode, and we have our ABS. So we can adjust all 3 of those with this button right here, this mode button here. We push that once, it pulls up the TC screen. Now, 3 is the highest setting of traction control. It's the most intrusive. 2 being lower, 1 being the less intrusive. Then you have off. You can turn your traction control completely off, or with the DE model, you have another option. You have G mode, G money, G mode, all that right there. That's gravel mode. Gravel mode really allows you to be able to break that rear end loose, to be able to have a little bit more freedom. You still have a safety net around you, but the parameters are a lot looser to allow you to kind of move around on a gravel road. I remember, what bike was it? Oh, it was the Moto Guzzi Stelvio. I rode that off-road, and it was damn near unrideable on a gravel road because it kept trying to interfere, and I was stuck on a real steep hill, and I couldn't get up it. I had to stop on the hill, and I'm sliding backwards and go through and literally turn off every single parameter of the cruise control just to allow me to get up that hill. And I'm holding up a 550-pound bike trying to do that. So having a gravel mode like this is really awesome. So we're going to leave it in gravel mode for now. Let's go over to the SDMS. So this is their mode selector. So you have 3 different ones. You have A, you have B, and you have C. C is the almost like a rain mode. The throttle is very tame, very relaxed. I think the horsepower levels are the same. It's just how the power is applied. It takes a lot of risk to get the bike moving with C. B's about average, and that's where I kind of kept it. And A is a little bit sharper. Is the sharpest, kind of a snappy throttle there. And then you go over to the ABS, and again you have level 2. What is it? You have level 1 and you have level 2 on the ABS, and then I think there's another mode, and I think you can turn off the rear ABS. Let me get this guy's way here. I think you can turn off the rear ABS. Actually, I know you can turn off the rear ABS. But like I said, we're going to leave the ABS on for now. And I think gravel mode does turn off the rear ABS. I'll put that up on the screen if that's incorrect. All right, so while we're on the side of the road here, let's take a look at this bike. I really, really like this color combination on this bike. So this is what Suzuki calls their champion yellow, and it is a bright yellow. And this thing really attracts the lady bugs. It's early spring in South Carolina. We have tons of ladybugs, and I was in my driveway, and I had like 15 ladybugs land on the bike. So this bike, it doesn't attract the ladies, but it does attract the ladybugs. And that yellow matched with those blue, kind of anodized blue rims, I really think that is a very good look. Suzuki, with their V-Strom, they're kind of known for their beak. And, you know, this is no different here. You do have a lower fender there, which helps to kind of collect all the mud and everything. And the fender does come down low enough in the back to help keep that stuff from you know, being thrown into your fender. But you have the beak, which is really more for looks than it is anything else. All right, so looking at the bike here, so like I said, we have a 2-into-1 exhaust. It's a stainless steel with our catalytic converter tucked up underneath there. The catalytic converter is directly underneath the engine, and that does produce a good bit of heat. Between the combination of that and our radiator right there, and low speed, this thing does produce a little bit of heat. Which again, these modern, you know, these Euro 5+ engines, they're designed to run at peak efficiency, and they need to produce heat to do that. And that's just one of the downsides of having a modern motorcycle, is that it's going to produce some heat. Is it as hot as an Aprilia 660? No, nowhere near that. But it does produce some heat, and that's just something to keep in mind. I will notice you see our steel trellis frame, and again, that's a bolt-on rear subframe. On top of that is that you have bolt-on passenger pegs. Now, again, I bring this up all the time because, like, a good example was the Triumph Tiger. Triumph Tiger had welded on passenger pegs, and they stuck out pretty far. And that was the first thing to hit if you knocked the bike over or you crashed or anything else. And if you bent a passenger peg that was welded to the frame, you technically just bent the frame. And if you bend the frame, the bike is therefore totaled. So having bolt-on passenger pegs is really nice. You can't take these off because your rear your preload adjuster is attached to this right side here. I'm sure there's somebody, if you want to take those off, there's somebody who could relocate that somewhere. The exhaust hanger is welded onto the frame, so, and again, that does stick out pretty far, and that is hot. That does stick out pretty far, so there is a chance that you might you bend that up if you go down hard enough, because it does stick out, and like I said, it's attached there. As far as our rims go, like I said, these are beautiful tubed spoke wheels. You have a 21-inch front and you have a 17-inch rear. And the tires that are on there are almost like a 90-10 adventure tire. Not really very aggressive. They'll do just fine for what we're doing today. We're not doing anything aggressive. We're not doing any mud or anything like that. Like I said, our oil filter is right there in the front. Very easy to access. Everything's really easy. It does come with a skid plate, which is a piece of plastic. If you're going to do anything more than a gravel road like this, I would highly recommend upgrading that. It does have a little heat shield inside there. The frame of the bike does come down like this, and there's already mounting points to put a more aggressive skid plate on it, something that comes up a little higher. So Suzuki did think about that. You got your sight glass right here. All right, so like I said, we're talking about our wheels. This is a 90-90-21 on our front. These are Dunlop Trail Max mixed tour tires. Again, maybe a 90-10 tire, but a 90-90-21. I really like having that tall, narrow front tire. And again, the DE is the Dual Explorer. This is kind of like their off-road version of the motorcycle. And then we have a 150/70/17 rear tire. Now we have Nissan 2-caliper brakes in the front. Again, nothing spectacular on the brakes. We do have two pistons. We have two calipers, 2 pistons, 2 calipers, 2 rotors. So a dual setup in the front. Nothing spectacular on the brakes. They do an okay job. I mean, nothing crazy. And then a single in the rear, just like you would find. Again, I use a lot of rear brake just from my days in the MSF course of using rear brake. So really nothing crazy there. The seat, while we're looking at it here, the seat is rather sculpted, and with that sculpt and that's kind of that slope down, it really kind of it puts pressure on you and puts it right on your nuts, if I'm being completely honest with you. And if you don't have nuts, it shouldn't be an issue. I would prefer a flatter seat. That would allow me to kind of move around a little bit more. And maybe if it was a flatter seat, maybe an aftermarket has a solution like Seat Concepts, where it's a flatter seat, and it would raise me up a little bit and give me a flatter bench right there. But again, like I said, it kind of, between sloping down here and then sloping up here, it kind of hits on my nuts right there. They do give us a 1 1/8 inch tapered handlebar from the factory, which is great. They don't give us heated grips from the factory, which is crazy, and they don't. All right, so our suspension, these are 43 millimeter Showa fully adjustable front forks, and they are inverted. I really like the front suspension. Again, comparing it to a Transalp 750, this front suspension is far superior to what Honda gave us on the Transalp 750. Again, I don't know a ton about the 25, and they did a bunch of updates on it. I'm not sure about that, but this front end is really nice here. The rear shock, nothing crazy on the rear shock. It's only adjustable for preload, which is still better than nothing. And again, like I said, if you're going to put a lot of luggage, or you're going to put a girlfriend, or you're going to put both, you can crank that preload adjuster down, which is right on the other side. We showed you on the rear peg, and you can crank that down to adjust the preload of the bike. So as far as suspension goes, this is one of the better suspensions out of the box in this midsize ADV market. So looking at the front of the bike, and again, we showed you in the nighttime here, we have two different beams. We have a low beam here, and we have a high beam here. The straight on projection of the light was great. Once you started making a turn, the light did cut off completely. So it's great straight line, subpar in the turns there. But I do like kind of the dual projector beam setup that they give us bike here. Suzuki's really kind of embraced the projector lights. The DRZ 4S, the 8S, all those models have that single projector headlight, and that's kind of cool looking, kind of minimal. There's our traditional beak in the front there. They do give us hand guards. I call them hand guards. We'll give it, but they're more of wind deflectors than anything else. As soon as you go down, those things are going to snap. We do have 8.7 inches of suspension travel front and rear, which is about average for this category right here. I think the Touareg has a little bit more. I think maybe the V85 has a little bit less. Transalp should be about the same. As far as some of the features go, and we've already covered a lot of those, Suzuki, they do give us a rear luggage rack, which is a pretty heavy-duty luggage rack that you can add on to. Again, we talked about the 1 1/8 inch handlebars, which is nice. Usually they only give you a 7/8, and you got to upgrade, or maybe even a 1 inch. So you get a nice fat bar here. You do have an adjustable windshield. Now, it's adjustable, but you have to have a tool with you. This is a 5 millimeter Allen head right there. This is the highest setting. So again, the wind, it's not buffeting, it's just dirty air. It's pretty bad as it is. Give us a larger windscreen right here, maybe something even twice the size. I bet WRS or Puig or any of these companies, I'm sure they've already come out, and I'll put some on the screen here if there are some good aftermarket windscreens. It needs to be a lot taller, and it needs to be a lot wider. Again, it's hitting me in the shoulders, and it's hitting me right in the beak there. The beak. They do give us a GPS bar, which is really nice. They didn't give us one on the Transalp. They also give us a factory plug right here. Look at that right there. It's standard USB, not USB-C. Again, that's something on the Transalp, and that was one of my first videos, is having to install the dadgum 12 volt on that. They didn't even give it to us from the factory. It wasn't even an option. They didn't give us a GPS bar either. So Suzuki, again, they really put their time and effort into it in designing this thing and giving the customers what they want. All right, so let's talk about the off-road riding. Now, again, off-road is going to be a off-road. This is part of the South Carolina Adventure Route, the SCAR route, which I'm a big fan of. I live in South Carolina. And this is, if you don't know what this is all public roads. It really is. It's all public roads. But I mean, look at this. I mean, this beautiful little dirt road right here, and we're riding right along. We got this beautiful cow pasture over here on the left-hand side. Big, beautiful cows. And like I said, it's just a cool little setup with this on this road right here, which I absolutely love. And I know this is going to be the extent of any sort of off-road riding that we're going to be doing with this motorcycle, because again, it's not my motorcycle. Again, I got to thank Team Charlotte Motorsports for giving me the keys to this bike, telling me, hey, go ride it, go do the full review, go do all that stuff right there. So again, I got to thank those guys right there. But as far as this right here, even with those tires, even with these 90-10 tires, this is doing this just fine. I mean, a dirt road like this. Now, again, if it had a lot of loose gravel, I probably wouldn't do that well, but these tires here, they do just fine. They really do. So I could do this right here. So this kind of reminds me of like the Uwari 100 or like the Smoky Mountain 500. This would be the perfect motorcycle for either one of those right there. The Smoky Mountain 500, which is 500 miles through the Smoky Mountains, as the name says. This is a perfect bike for something like that. It's all day comfortable. Can you do some more aggressive stuff with it? Yeah. Can you do some off-road stuff with it? Yeah. So it's one of those where this would be a perfect bike for either one of those two events right there. Hey, puppy, there's my doggy. There's my doggy. Yes, I love the Scar route. Let's do some acceleration. Woo! It's not fast, but it is quick. These roads that we're riding on here, they're really choppy roads, and this suspension, again, like I said, this is one of the better suspensions in the ADV category straight out of the box. It's fully adjustable in the front, and it's preload adjustable in the rear. So as far as suspension goes, they really kind of nailed it with this right here. So we got some nice curvy roads right here. So let's see how the bike handles. Again, like I said, we got 21-inch front wheel with a kind of a 90-10 Dunlop tire, so a very road-biased tire. But as far as roads like this, I mean, this is great. I mean, this bike will eat up these roads like this all day long. Get these nice straightaways, and you can really kind of open it up at very legal speeds. It just soaks up all the imperfections in the road. This is a great back road scoring bike. All right, this is one of my absolute favorite sections of road on the Scar route here. We're not gonna get it if we outrun the Scar. So this is a nice, beautiful, curvy section of road here. We'll try to capture some 360 footage here. So again, as far as choppy roads, this is a very choppy road, but as far as twisty roads, this is a nice twisty road right here. This is a beautiful, backcountry road, and with a bike like this, with the horsepower this bike has and the torque curve, you can really kind of exploit everything that this bike has to offer on a road like this. This is great right here. Again, this road's pretty chewed up, but again, having a good suspension, you can soak that up without really upsetting the bike. Now, this is the same section of road I took that Triumph Scrambler on a couple weeks ago, a couple videos back, and it beat the absolute hell out of me. I really had a hard time riding that bike on that section of road right there. Watch out! Watch out! Hang on! All right. Okay. All right, I mean, beautiful countryside right here. So again, an ADV bike is not going to be a bike that you're going to be carving up the roads, but can you ride spirited on it? Yeah. Could you do a track day on it? Yeah, you definitely could. And if you're a decent rider, you could probably be at the top of novice or even somewhere in intermediate category riding a bike like this if you know how to ride. Would this be fun on the tail of the Dragon or something like that? Oh, absolutely. Not only would it be comfortable, but it would be a lot of fun on there. This is great. Look at this countryside. This is beautiful. A little bit of gravel on the road. You got to watch out for that. And I love this little curvy section right here. Downhill, kind of curvy. Roads are real narrow. Could be a piece of farm equipment around the corner anytime. Nice little straightaway. Give us some gas. Nice little bump on the bridge here. Woo! Downshift into the turn here. Now, I am feeling a little bit of vibration in my feet at around that 5,000, 6,000 RPM, which I did notice on the highway as well. So, which is, I mean, it's something to note. Is it the end of the world? No. Is it going to make your feet buzzy? Yeah, it is. Which is not necessarily fun. All right. There we go. Some gas on the straightaway here. All right, that was fun. That was a lot of fun right there. Heck yeah. V-Strom 800DE. Great bike. Great bike. Let's go park in the shade over here. Yeah. Heck yeah. Great job. Great job. Man, what a beautiful section of road here. And again, this is right in my backyard. This is still inside York County here. What a beautiful section of road.
All right, so while we're in this beautiful, I mean, gorgeous, gorgeous spot outside of Sharon, South Carolina, let's talk about this powertrain right here. And this is really the biggest thing with this bike here that kind of brings it into the modern age of motorcycles. This is Suzuki's 776 dual overhead cam parallel twin. And again, it's a 270-degree crank, which gives it that awesome sound. It makes 84.3 horsepower and 54.5 foot-pounds of torque. And it has what Suzuki calls their Suzuki cross balancer, which is two balancer shafts, which they put at 90 degrees of the crankshaft. And what that's supposed to do is that's supposed to help, you know, balance out any vibrations that come from the engine. And I'll tell you, we'll talk about it later on in the review, but the engine's still a little buzzy. That's one of the very few complaints I have about this bike. It's still a little buzzy. So we have dual linked 42mm throttle bodies. It has two 10-hole long nozzle high pressure fuel nozzles, and high pressure for this is 49 psi. So I mean it's not crazy. We got a stainless steel 2-into-1 exhaust right here. The transmission, it's a 6-speed transmission, and the trans uses what Suzuki calls the Suzuki Clutch Assist, the SCAS. It kind of works as a slipper clutch by allowing a small amount of clutch slip to enable smooth downshifts. It also works as an assist clutch, increasing plate pressure under acceleration. So the chassis here, we have a steel backbone chassis. This bike weighs 507 pounds. She is a little heavy for the market. And again, compared to some of the competitors right there, we'll talk about the suspension later on. There's our beautiful 21 17-inch wheels right there. We'll talk about our brakes later on. As far as our electronics, this bike has what Suzuki calls their intelligent ride system, which is a comprehensive electronic control system, which and talks about their ABS and their traction control and all that stuff right there. This bike does come with an up and down quick shifter, which Suzuki calls their quick shifter. It does have, like I said, we talked about the traction control, the easy start, low RPM assist. What that is like when you start the bike up, all you do is press the button one time and the bike starts right up. And the RPM assist is when you go to take off and you start to let the clutch out, the bike will give it a little bit of throttle, and just to make it easier so you don't stall the bike. We have a beautiful 5-inch TFT screen right there. They do give us a USB port from the factory. Thank you, Suzuki. Screw you, Honda. So like I said, we've looked at this bike enough. Let's stop talking about it. Let's go ride it. Look at this. Look how gorgeous this is around us. Let's go ride this thing and let's see how it does on the road. All right, let's take back off on this 2025 Suzuki V-Strom 800DE. And again, the DE stands for Dale Earnhardt. Raise hell, praise Dale. Woo! I'm just kidding. I don't really know what it stands for. All right. Let's take off here. All right. A little off-road riding. All right, so let's talk about the pros of this bike. So there's quite a few pros and there's just a few cons. And I really think the pros kind of outweigh the cons, but I really want to cover both to kind of give you a good comprehensive review. So the first pro is going to be this engine. This 776 parallel twin 270-degree crank is a peach of an engine. It is an absolute peach of an engine. I think this is one of the best engines in the market when you talk about performance, reliability, serviceability, all that stuff right there. This is a great motor. The suspension is definitely a pro. The suspension is very confident. It's fully adjustable in the front, one of the best stock suspensions on the market today. The rear, while not being anything crazy, is very competent for what it does. The ergonomics are absolutely spot on. This is literally all day comfortable as far as riding goes. The quick shifter, the up and down quick shifter, the upshifts are buttery smooth. Notice I didn't mention downshifts. That's going to be in the cons. And the looks. I think this is a great looking bike. So let's talk about the cons. And there's very few. While we're talking about the quick shifter, the downshifts feel clunky. That's probably the best way I can describe the downshifts. It seems like the blipper needs a little bit more blipping to really kind of finish off the downshift. Let's pull over here. Let's take a look at this. Is a beautiful spot right here. Let's stop and look at this beautiful
Dale Earnhardt motorcycle. Yeah. Race Hell, praise Dale. So as far as the rest of the cons go, the engine is a little buzzy. I know they put the balancer shafts on there, but it's still between 5,000 and 6,000 RPM. The engine just tends to feel a little buzzy. They don't give us cruise control from the factory. Like Suzuki, come on, we got ride-by-wire. Give us cruise control. Now, again, you can call Viridian Cruise Control and actually use the code VFireman1028, and you can get 10% off. Viridian Cruise Control has a plug-and-play system that you can put God's honest electronic cruise control on this bike, and it is dang near perfect. As far as that's it, honestly, I don't have any other cons. I mean, this bike is super smooth. It looks great. The yellow, it attracts the ladybugs, and it's just a super competent package. Is it the best mid-size ADV bike? I can't say it is. I can't say it's not. This is a super bike, and I'm so excited and feel blessed that I get to ride this bike in this beautiful setting right here.
All right, guys, so that's going to wrap up our ride and review of the Suzuki V-Strom 800DE. And I know earlier I said it's the Dale Earnhardt edition. It's not. Race Hell, praise Dale, but it's not the Dale Earnhardt edition. So let's talk about this bike. Let's do a quick recap of this bike here. 776 parallel twin, 84 horsepower, a great powertrain. Is it a little bit buzzy? Yes. 5,000 to 6,000 RPM. It's got a little bit of buzz to it. Besides for that, it's great. Get some, isolated foot pegs, and you really won't even feel it. No problems there. The suspension, this is probably one of the best stock suspensions on a mid-size ADV bike on the market. Stop, send, everything. This is a great suspension. On road, the bike feels nice and planted. I do wish we had a little bit more wind protection from the factory, but as far as the bike being planted, plenty of power, no problem at all. It would be a lot nicer if they gave us cruise control, but they didn't do that. Off-road, the bike is very planted. This and the Touareg might be the two best off-road bikes in the mid-size ADV market, straight out of the box. The competition, we've talked about the competition. You got your Transalp 750, you got your Yamaha Tenere 700, you got your Moto Guzzi V85 TT, you've got your Aprilia Touareg 660, Triumph's got the Tiger 800, BMW, they have the 750, the 800 GS, but that's a lot more expensive. And honestly, for what the price of this is, which is MSRP of $11,709, that's a hell of a price for everything that you get here. Again, address the few shortcomings, and you have an incredible package that could literally do just about everything. A jack of all trades as far as a motorcycle. And again, I gotta thank Team Charlotte Motorsports for giving me the keys to this bike and telling me to go ride it. Listen, if you're in the market for a Suzuki, for a Yamaha, for a Honda, or for a Kawasaki or Polaris, you gotta go see Team Charlotte Motorsports. They have the largest selection in the Charlotte market, hell, anywhere to my knowledge, of all those brands right there. New motorcycles, used motorcycles, ATVs, personal watercraft, you name it, they got it right there on Freedom Drive in Charlotte, North Carolina. And if your thing is more of European, go next door, T's Eurocycle. They carry Moto Guzzi, an Aprilia, and a Vespa in new. And any sort of used European motorcycle that you can think of, you're going to find it, again, right there at T's Eurocycle, right next door to Team Charlotte Motorsports. They're sister companies. And honestly, you could spend a half a day or a whole day just looking at all the motorcycles, talking to all the guys. Go over to T's and look at the building. There's a building, inside their showroom's almost like a work of art with planes and old antique motorcycles. And then Team Charlotte Motorsports is really more of that kind of modern, they got the music playing and everything else. It's a really cool kind of yin and yang when it comes to the dealerships right there. But again, anything 2 wheels, 4 wheels, no wheels, you're going to find it right there. So again, thank those guys. They don't pay me a dime to say this, guys, okay? They let me ride their motorcycles. They don't pay me a dime. I am passionate about motorcycles, and I think Team Charlotte Motorsports is the absolute best place to buy one in the Charlotte market. And if you're not in the Charlotte market, there's airports 5 minutes down the road from the dealership. Fly and ride, they'll take care of you. Just go see those guys. So again, guys, I want to thank you for watching. If you see anything that you like, comment, and subscribe. Subscriptions for me are the absolute ultimate compliment. Throw a comment, and I'm gonna pin a comment in there with the dealership information and everything. If you had any experience with Team Charlotte, or if you've had the V-Strom, you've had the previous V-Stroms, the 650s, the 1000s, the 1050s, or if you had any experience with this new model here, or if if you have any of the competitors. Let me know what you think about this bike versus those other bikes in the market. Again, it's really hard to go wrong in this day and age. We have so many great options as far as bikes, and I think the midsize ADV is the absolute sweet spot of that, and I think this is the sweet spot of the midsize ADV category. So again, thank you guys for watching. God bless, roll tide, and remember, tomorrow needs you. Thanks, guys.